No one believed he would do it. Even Jack himself wasn't sure why he said yes. He stood outside the alien embassy with a paper in his hand. A marriage contract, official and sealed. The name of his bride was written in strange alien letters. But he had never seen her, never heard her voice, not even a photo. All he knew was one rule. He could not see her until their wedding night. Jack was a simple man. He worked as a cargo handler in a dusty trade colony on the edge of known space. No family, no savings, no future. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a genius. He was just tired. Tired of waking up to gray skies. Tired of being invisible. So when the offer came, a legal marriage to an alien woman with a reward of credits and... Landy laughed, but the embassy official didn't laugh. This is a real proposal. The alien woman in the silver uniform said, "You will be well cared for. You just have to agree to our terms." The terms were strange. No contact before the wedding. No questions about her face, her body, or her race. No withdrawal after the agreement was signed, and no divorce for at least one galactic cycle. "Why?" Jack had asked the official. Only replied, "She chose you, human. She believes you are." Different, Jack told himself. It was foolish, but something deep inside whispered otherwise. What if this was fate? What if this was his one chance to mean something? So he signed the contract, handshaking slightly, and just like that. The wedding was scheduled for 1 week later. Word spread fast in the colony. Some mocked him. Others looked at him with pity. "You're marrying a mystery alien. You'll wake up with tentacles around your neck." One man joked. "Maybe she's blind and you're her punishment," laughed another, but Jack ignored them. Because in the quiet moments before sleep, he began to dream. Dream of a voice. Calling his name, soft and kind. A presence standing beside him in the dark. Never seen, only felt. The day of the wedding came quickly. He was taken to a tall building at the edge of the alien district. There were no flowers, no guests, just silence and cold lights. The ceremony room was circular and glowing with soft blue light. He stood at the center, wearing clean clothes given to him by the embassy. And then she entered. She wore a long veil that touched the ground. Her dress shimmered like silver smoke. She walked slowly, her face hidden completely. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to speak, but didn't know what to say. And then he heard it not with his ears but inside his mind. "Do not be afraid," a voice whispered gently. He looked around, confused. "I am speaking only to you." The voice continued. Jack blinked. "You've single quotes in my head." He whispered aloud. She nodded once, her veil moving softly. The alien priest began the ceremony, speaking in a mix of languages. Jack barely heard the words. His mind was spinning. He kept staring at her hands, delicate, with glowing lines across. Her skin like silver roots when it was time to say, "I accept." Jack took a breath and said it clearly. The room hummed gently, and it was done. They were married. Afterward, they were taken to a private room. Still, she said nothing aloud. "Only mind to mind. Are you disappointed?" She asked him. "No," Jack replied quickly, surprising even himself. "I just want to understand." She stood still, then slowly reached up and removed the veil. Jack's breath caught. Her skin was pale blue, soft and glowing. Her eyes were large, purple, and kind. She looked nothing like a human, and yet something about her felt familiar. "I didn't want you to fear me before knowing me," she said gently in his mind. "My kind has been hunted, rejected, hated." Jack didn't move. He studied her, not with fear, but with growing curiosity. "You chose me?" he asked. "I did," she replied. "But why?" "'Cause you looked saddened, kind and alone." Jack didn't know what to say, so he smiled. Just a little, and said the only thing that felt true. I guess. I'm not alone anymore. Her eyes glowed softly, and for the first time, she stepped closer. And when her hand touched his, a strange warmth filled his chest. He didn't know what this was, but he knew one thing for sure. This story was just beginning. The room was quiet. Almost too quiet. Jack sat at the edge of the bed, his heart still racing. She stood near the window, the starlight gently brushing over her glowing skin. No words were spoken aloud, but he could feel her thoughts. Wrapping around him like soft wind, he had never felt anything like this before. Not fear. Not confusion, just something strange and warm deep in his chest. Her voice echoed in his mind, soft and unsure. If you wish to leave, you may. Jack turned his head sharply, blinking. Why would I leave? He asked. She paused for a long moment. Because I am not what you imagined. Jack stared at her, trying to find the right words. I didn't imagine anything, he said. I just hoped you'd be kind, and she was, in ways he never thought an alien could be. There was something fragile in the way she held her arms close, the way she didn't dare move too fast around him. Jack realized she was more nervous than he was. That changed everything. He stood and walked toward her. Slowly, carefully. She didn't flinch. Do you want to be married to me? He asked plainly. She nodded, her eyes not meeting his. I do. I chose this. Why without showing yourself before? Because others ran, or laughed, or tried to use me, she said, her voice growing quieter inside his mind. I needed someone who wouldn't judge before knowing. Jack nodded slowly. He understood that more than she could know. All his life, he had been treated like nothing, just another poor man moving boxes, not worth a second glance. And yet, here she was, a mysterious alien woman who had chosen him. They sat together near the small heating unit as the stars shifted outside the glass. He asked her name, but she didn't say it, not in words. Instead, she sent him a feeling, a sound like wind passing over frozen water. I can't pronounce that. Jack laughed nervously. She tilted her head, almost smiling. Then give me one. Jack blinked, surprised. You want me to name you? I want you to choose something you can hold in your heart. He looked at her glowing skin, her eyes full of silence and starlight. Lyra, he whispered. She closed her eyes for a moment, then nodded. I like that. That night they didn't share a bed, not because of fear or rejection, but because they both needed time. Jack lay on one side of the room, Lyra on the other. They watched the same ceiling, breathing the same air. And something invisible grew between them, something soft and unknown. Jack dreamed again, but this time it was clearer. He stood in a field of blue flowers, unfamiliar stars spinning above. Lyra was there, not in her dress, but in armor, standing tall. He saw fire behind her, enemies chasing her, pain in her eyes. Then she reached for him, and when he touched her hand, dream broke. He woke with a gasp, sitting up, sweating. Lyra was already awake, watching him. Quietly, you saw one of my memories, she said in his mind. It wasn't a dream. Jack swallowed, still shaken. What was that place? My home, she answered. Long ago, she told him only pieces. But it was enough. Her world was gone, destroyed by invaders. She was one of the last of her kind. Hiding in the edges of space, the marriage contract had been a legal shield, a way to stay hidden while blending in with human society. But she didn't just need safety. She needed someone to stand beside her. Jack didn't know what to say, but he knew what he felt. He wasn't just part of some weird alien deal anymore. He was part of her life now, and maybe, just maybe, that meant something more than credits and land. The next morning, they walked together through the colony streets. Everyone stared, but Jack didn't care. She wore her veil again, silent and calm beside him. And when someone laughed or whispered, Jack simply held her hand tighter. Lyra spoke only to him. Her thoughts soft like wind. You are not like other humans. Jack smiled. You're not like other aliens, and just like that. Two outcasts began something neither of them fully understood. But deep down, Jack knew this was not a mistake. This was only the beginning of something far greater than either of them imagined. The moment their fingers touched, Jack's vision blurred. He wasn't in the colony anymore. He was falling, flying, floating through someone else's memory. There was screaming, smoke, and light that felt like fire. Then silence. He opened his eyes with a gasp, breath shaking in his chest. Lyra stood beside him, unmoving, her hand still in his. Her eyes were glowing brighter than ever before, but her face looked calm. You saw it, didn't you? Her voice whispered inside his head. Jack couldn't speak. He just nodded, slowly. The vision had felt so real. He was in a city that had no name. Under a sky with 3 moons, creatures were fleeing. Buildings burning, soldiers in black armor, storming everything, and LaRouche was fighting them alone. She held a blade that shined with energy, her silver hair whipping in the wind. And just before the memory ended, she fell, not from weakness, but betrayal. Jack stared at her now. With new eyes, you're not just hiding, he said. Voice shaking, you were someone important. Lyra said nothing for a moment. Then finally, I was a guardian. The last one left alive. They sat on the floor in silence. A guardian, Jack thought. The words sounded like legend. But there she was, wearing simple robes. And hiding behind a marriage contract, he felt stupid for ever thinking she was just another alien bride. Why me? He asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. You could have picked someone smarter, stronger, richer. I didn't want someone perfect, she said. I wanted someone kind. For the next few days, Jack stayed by her side, even though his head was full of questions. He didn't push her, he cooked food, told her stories of Earth, helped her understand little things. She listened with deep attention, her glowing eyes watching every movement. At night, they sat together. No longer sleeping apart. Still no touching, no rush, just presence, but peace didn't last. One night, as the sky above the colony turned red with a rare gas storm, someone broke into their quarters. The door shattered with a loud crack. Jack grabbed a nearby pipe. Heart racing, 3 figures in dark cloaks stepped in, their faces hidden. We don't want you. Human, one of them said. Give us the girl. Jack's breath froze. Lyra stood behind him, silent but tall. The air around her began to hum. You don't know what you're doing, she said directly into their minds. One of the intruders laughed. We know exactly what she is. Jack didn't wait. He charged forward like a fool. The pipe in his hand was no match for their weapons. One of them slammed him against the wall. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he didn't let go of the pipe. He shouted, Run, Lyra. Get out of here. But she didn't move. Instead, her body lit up with white light. The attackers stumbled back, screaming as their weapons melted. Jack covered his eyes, feeling the heat but not the pain, when he looked again. The room was empty except for her and him. Lyra stood over him, breathing heavily, hands glowing with energy. You burned them, he whispered. I warned them, she replied quietly. They didn't listen. Jack tried to sit up, but a sharp pain cut through his chest. Lyra rushed to him and placed her glowing fingers on the wound. Wait, don't. He started, but the warmth spread fast. Within seconds, the pain faded and the skin sealed. He stared at her with wide eyes. You can heal people. I can, but it takes from my life, she said calmly. Jack froze. Don't ever do that for me again, he said firmly. But Lyra only smiled a little. I already did. The next day, soldiers from the colony came to investigate. Jack Lead said it was a robbery, that he never saw the attackers clearly. Lyra didn't speak at all, hiding behind her veil again. But Jack could feel something had changed between them. Not fear, not guilt, something deeper. They had crossed a line. And now they were tied together by more than a contract. Later that night, as they sat in silence once more, Jack looked at her and said, "You don't have to protect me, you know?" Lyra turned to him, her voice soft in his mind. "I'm not protecting you," she said. "I'm staying close to the one thing that makes me feel safe." Jack didn't answer. He just reached for her hand again. And this time, she didn't. Pull away. Asterisk, a silent alarm blinked on the wall, and Jack didn't notice it. He was too busy watching Lyra dance. Not real dancing, just slow movements in the dark, like flowing light. She moved with her eyes closed, arms following an ancient rhythm, and for a moment, Jack forgot everything. Then the alarm blinked red, and the lights went out. Lyra stopped. Moving her body still, Jack stood up quickly, eyes adjusting to the sudden darkness. A low hum began to rise, vibrating through the floor. That wasn't the sound of a power cut. It was the sound of a military engine. "Someone's coming," Jack whispered. Lyra didn't answer, but he could feel her thoughts getting sharper. She reached under the bed and pulled out a small black cube. When she pressed it, their entire wall turned into a screen. A security feed showed armored vehicles rolling through the colony gates. "Human soldiers, government issue, and not friendly looking. They're here for me," Lyra said calmly. In his mind, Jack's jaw clenched. "Why now?" "They know I'm alive," she said, "and they want what I carry." Jack didn't ask what that meant. He just grabbed the small bag they kept by the door, emergency rations. Credits, a hidden ID. Lyra was already moving, wrapping herself in her long cloak. When they stepped into the hallway, the ground shook beneath them. The building's loudspeaker crackled. "All citizens remain indoors. This is a security lockdown." They didn't stop. Jack led the way through narrow back halls past broken walls and rusted vents. He had worked in this colony for years. He knew every shortcut. Every forgotten exit behind them, soldiers searched from door to door, shouting orders. But Jack and Lyra slipped through the cracks like shadows. They emerged into the open air behind the power station. Dust whipped around them, and the sky was turning gold. Morning was coming. But the air was filled with something worse than fear. It was filled with betrayal. "How did they find us?" Jack asked. Lyra's answer was cold. "Someone close to the embassy sold them the information." He looked at her, then at the horizon. "We can't run forever. We don't have to," she replied, "just long enough to reach the stars." That's when she showed him something hidden under her cloak, a small round device, black, humming and warm. A beacon. Jack asked, confused. "A key," Lyra replied. To a ship hidden in the wastelands, they traveled on foot through the edge of the desert. Jack had never seen her so focused, her thoughts like a blade. But even now, she made sure he had. Water first, that he walked in the shade. She had power but also care. And Jack realized he was falling in love, not just with her light, but with her silence, her strength, her strange kindness. They reached the ship at sunset, hidden under layers of rock and dust. Jack was speechless. It didn't look like any ship he had seen before. Its surface was alive, shifting like liquid metal. "This was my escape pod," Lyra explained. "But it can fly again." Suddenly, a loud voice rang from the cliffs. Above, "Don't move." Dozens of soldiers surrounded them, weapons drawn. Jack stood in front of Lyra without thinking. Arms wide, "She's not a threat." He shouted, "She's not your enemy." One of the soldiers stepped forward, face hidden by a helmet. "No, but she's not yours either." That's when Lyra stepped forward and touched Jack's back. "I won't let you die for me," she whispered in his mind. "You already saved me once, remember?" "I'll do it again," Jack replied without blinking. And then she did something unexpected. She walked to the front, raised her hands, and spoke, not with her mind, but with her real voice. It was the first time Jack heard her speak aloud. Her voice was soft, melodic, yet powerful. And every soldier froze. "You came to hunt a ghost," she said. "But I am not a ghost. I am truth." The soldiers hesitated, confused, unsure, and in that moment, the ship behind her came alive. Lights surged across its body, and a deep hum shook the sand. A hatch opened, waiting. Jack grabbed her hand, and she didn't let go. Together, they ran into the ship as energy shields closed behind them. Gunfire followed, but none reached them. They were gone, high above the desert. The ship broke through the clouds. Jack stared at the stars ahead, then at the girl beside him. "You spoke," he said, still stunned. She smiled faintly. "For you." The stars stretched like rivers outside the ship's glass. Jack leaned against the cold wall, staring at the cosmos. He had never seen space like this, not from behind cargo crates, not from a colony window. This time, he was free, floating between worlds with a glowing alien woman beside him, and somehow, it all felt right. Lyra sat on the floor, eyes closed, surrounded by a soft light. She hadn't spoken in hours, not by mind, not by voice, but Jack didn't need words to know she was afraid. They had escaped, yes, but not forever. Someone powerful still hunted her. The ship hummed like a living thing. It wasn't made from metal like human vessels. It breathed, shifted, and responded to Lyra's touch. Jack wandered its strange corridors, brushing his fingers across walls that pulsed gently. "This ship is old," he whispered. "Older than anything I've ever seen. It was made by my ancestors." Lyra finally spoke in his mind. Jack turned, surprised. She stood behind him, barefoot, her silver hair floating slightly in the air. "My people didn't build machines," she continued. "They grew them." Jack stared, his thoughts spinning. She led him deeper into the ship, into a chamber lit with swirling blue light. At the center stood a tree, but not like any tree he had seen. Its roots shimmered, its leaves whispered secrets. "This is the core," Lyra said. "It keeps the ship alive, and it remembers." Jack stepped closer, feeling warmth. Suddenly, images flooded his mind. Planets, wars, lost cities, voices singing in languages not heard in 1,000 years. He stumbled back, gasping. "The ship knows me now," he said, his voice trembling. Lyra nodded slowly. "It sees your heart." For 3 days, they stayed hidden in the stars. The ship drifted near a silent moon, wrapped in cloaking energy. Jack repaired small systems. Lyra meditated for hours. They cooked simple meals, told each other stories, or rather, Jack talked, and Lyra listened, smiling softly. He told her about his first fight, about the time he broke his arm falling off a water tower. He told her how his mother used to hum while washing clothes, how he always felt like he was waiting for something, but never knew what. "You were waiting for me?" Lyra whispered gently. Jack looked at her, unsure if she was teasing, but her face was calm, her eyes deep, and he believed her. One night, Jose shared a blanket near the ship's warm core. Lyra suddenly gasped. Her hands trembled, and her eyes filled with a strange blue glow. "What's wrong?" Jack asked quickly. "The beacon," she said. "They've found it in an instant." The ship's walls lit up with warning symbols. A dark shape was approaching from the edge of space, fast and massive. A war cruiser, human-made, built for battle. "We can't fight that," Jack said, heart racing. "We don't have to," Lyra replied. "We need to run now." She rushed to the control tree and placed both hands on its trunk. The ship responded instantly, lights flaring, engines warming, but Jack noticed something strange. The ship wasn't moving fast enough. "What's wrong?" he asked. Lyra's voice trembled. "It's tired," she said, "and it needs more energy than I can give." Jack looked around, desperate. "There must be something we can do." "There is," she said, "but it's dangerous." She led him to a small chamber hidden beneath the main deck. Inside was a glowing chair, surrounded by vines and crystal roots. "If you sit here," she said, "the ship will connect to you directly." Jack hesitated. "What happens then?" "You'll feel everything I feel," she said softly. "The ship will see you like it sees me." Without another word, Jack sat down. The vines wrapped around his arms, not tight, just firm. Warmth spread through his body. And then he saw everything. He saw Lyra as a child, running across alien sands. He saw her training as a guardian, crying when her sister vanished. He felt her loneliness, her silence, her exile. He saw her watching him from the shadows long before the marriage offer. And he heard her first real thought about him. Maybe this one won't leave. When Jack opened his eyes, she was kneeling in front of him. "I know everything now," he whispered. "I saw your whole heart, and you stayed," Lyra said, her voice shaking. Jack smiled weakly. "I'm not going anywhere behind them." The ship roared to life, faster than before, brighter than ever. Together, bonded through memory, through energy, through something deeper than love, they escaped into the black of space. Not just two strangers in hiding, but two souls who had finally found home in each other. Asterisk, the courtroom was not like any Jack had ever seen. Walls curved high, made of shining glass that reflected a million stars. Voices echoed softly, some real, some only. In his mind, he stood beside Lyra, feeling the weight of 1,000 eyes. Not just humans, but aliens from distant worlds, watching, waiting, judging. The head judge was a tall figure draped in silver robes. Her eyes held centuries of wisdom and a cold sharpness. "You stand accused of harboring a fugitive," she said, voice calm but firm. Lyra's gaze met the judge's without fear. Jack felt pride swell inside him when it was Lyra's turn to speak. She did not raise her voice. Instead, her words filled the minds of everyone present. "I am not a fugitive," she said. "I am the last guardian of my people. I carry their hopes, their history, and their future. To some, I may be a threat, but I stand here with truth and honor." Whispers ran through the crowd like wind through dry leaves. Jack stepped forward, heart pounding. "If you want her, you must go through me first," he said loudly. Silence fell, broken only by the slow breathing of those watching. The judge raised a hand. "Human, do you understand the risks?" Jack nodded. "I understand more than you know," he said. "And I choose to stand with her, not against her." The trial turned from accusation to revelation. Ancient records were displayed in light, showing Lyra's true identity. She was no mere refugee. She was a princess, a leader, a symbol of a lost empire. Some gasped, others frowned, but all eyes stayed on Jack and Lyra. Then, without warning, Lyra's voice changed. It filled the room, no longer soft, but commanding and clear. "I speak now not just for myself, but for every soul lost in war and silence. For those who waited for justice and hope." The crowd watched as her power pulsed through the chamber. Jack felt a warm glow at his side. She looked at him, and in that moment, he knew she trusted him, and he would protect her with everything. The verdict was not quick, but when it came, it was a surprise. The tribunal granted Lyra her freedom, not just as a survivor, but as a queen returning home. Jack squeezed her hand gently. "No regrets," he whispered. She smiled. "A real smile, only that I didn't meet you sooner, outside." As they walked through the crowd, cheers erupted. Some faces still held fear, but many carried hope. Jack knew their journey was far from over, but now they had won a battle few thought possible. Asterisk, the cold wind whispered through the empty palace halls. Jack walked slowly beside Lyra, her hand warm in his. She wore a simple crown, not heavy, but glowing softly with light. The throne room was filled with thousands watching silently. No words were spoken, but every eye was on them. Lyra stopped and looked up at Jack. Her eyes shone brighter than any star. "Do you still have regrets?" she asked gently. Jack smiled. The weight of everything they had been through pressing on his chest. "No regrets at all," he said. "I only wish I had met you sooner." She reached out and took his hand with both of hers. The glowing crown lifted from her head and floated toward him. Jack caught it, surprised. "It is not a king's crown," Lyra whispered. "It is a husband's promise." Around them, the crowd burst into soft cheers and applause, not for a ruler, but for two souls who had found each other against all odds. Jack looked at Lorraine, longer just an alien bride, but a queen who had chosen him as her partner, her equal, her home. They turned and walked from the throne room out into the open air where stars stretched endless and bright. Jack felt her smile against his palm. And for the first time, he truly believed in the impossible. "I married an alien I never saw before our wedding night," he thought, "and I would do it again." In every life,